Hello, this is Natalie Lovegren with an LPAC TV news update. As the activity along the Rim of Fire continues, a lot of people are asking, are these earthquakes part of a continuing trend of increase in seismic activity? Well, according to the United States Geological Survey data, earthquake activity has remained relatively constant in the past century. Under the headline, "Are Earthquakes Really on the Increase?" in the Earthquake Myth section of their website, the USGS states, "We continue to be asked by many people throughout the world if earthquakes are on the increase. Although it may seem that we are having more earthquakes, earthquakes of magnitude 7 or greater have remained fairly constant throughout this century, and according to our records, have actually seemed to decrease in recent years." Now, if we look at the USGS's data, this is statistically true. The total number of earthquakes of magnitude 7 or greater have remained pretty constant throughout the century, and even decreased a bit in the most recent decade. Here, we present the number of magnitude 7 or greater earthquakes for the last 3 decades. Their website explains that the apparent increase is simply due to the greater number of seismographs, improved telecommunication systems, and more people around on the planet to notice. But what happens if we look at the frequency of earthquakes magnitude 8 or greater over the same 3 decades? Keep in mind that a magnitude 8 quake is not simply just a little bit more powerful than a magnitude 7, because the scale is logarithmic. For example, a magnitude 8 has 32 times the energy of a magnitude 7. Earthquakes of magnitude 8 or greater are termed great earthquakes. A magnitude 9 earthquake is 1,000 times stronger than a magnitude 7. And we've had 2 earthquakes of magnitude 9 or greater in the last 7 years. The recent 9.0 in Japan, and then the 9.1 magnitude Sumatra earthquake of 2004. Before 2004, we hadn't seen one since 1964. So, what we are looking at here in this chart is a dramatic increase in the frequency of great earthquakes. Now, keeping in mind the question of whether the Earth is increasing in frequency of high-energy events, let's take a look at the activity of volcanoes. Volcanoes are measured according to the Volcanic Explosivity Index. Here, you see an increase in powerful volcanoes that rank greater than 4 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index. If we look at a chart of volcanoes measuring 4 or above on this index and add the number of great earthquakes, magnitude 8 or above, you see quite an increase in activity. In the decades since the solar maximum of year 2000, we've had both more great earthquakes and more cataclysmic volcanoes than any other decade in over a century. So if the energetic activity of the Earth is dramatically increasing and generating events that are causing massive destruction and loss of life, the obvious sane political move would be to launch a crash program for investigating the cause of these events, not launching the next round of budget cuts. We do have the scientific potential to immediately put together an international network to monitor earthquake precursors, whose alerts would help evacuate and save millions of lives. But, as has been demonstrated repeatedly, saving human lives and improving their future is not one of President Obama's top political priorities, to say the least. This has been clearly demonstrated in his shutdown of the very NASA missions that would help us solve these problems. By basing their presentation on the magnitude 7 or greater, and thus denying an increase in earthquake activity, the USGS under the Obama administration is committing a fraud. By employing this ruse, the chart shows a decrease in earthquakes over the very decade when the big increase in great earthquake and cataclysmic volcano activity was taking place. So the intention is clear. Don't tell people that more frequent and stronger earthquakes and volcanoes have been occurring over the past decade, and they won't demand that you do anything about it. This is part of the same policy of denying that earthquakes can be forecasted. It's the same genocidal policy that Obama has applied to healthcare, to the treatment of the victims of the Haiti earthquake, and to the millions of continuing victims of the Wall Street looting of our economy. What would be the effect were a magnitude 9 earthquake to hit the 8th largest economy in the world, California, and Obama were still in office? Doing nothing to prepare is criminal negligence. But lying about the fact that these great earthquakes are increasing and saying that we cannot forecast them is committing a willful genocidal fraud. So, if we are incapable of removing Obama from office on these grounds, are we really capable of surviving